So exactly why is Von Miller in Buffalo and not back for another year in LA? He's got reasons. That's next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day, free and available wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I am Travis Rogers. I'm your host of Locked On Rams, as well as the host of the Rams pregame, postgame, and halftime show on their flagship station here in Los Angeles, 710 ESPN, as well as the co-host of the Travis and Sliwa Show, 10 a to 1 p every day on ESPN LA 710. Okay, so we got a good one for you today. Today's episode is brought to you by Blue Nile. Make your moments sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And Locked On Sports listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement. Use the code LOCKEDON at checkout. Okay, here's what we got lined up for today's pod. I want to talk about Von Miller coming up in just 1 second. Cam Akers has some pretty big goals for this upcoming season. We'll talk about him in just a little bit. And the Rams offensive line got a lower grade than it has previously, but maybe not quite as bad a news as you might have thought. But let's start with Von Miller. Let's start with what he had to say recently about why he is in Buffalo and why he is not still here in Los Angeles, looking to go back-to-back in Super Bowls, looking to pick up his third Super Bowl championship along the way. He talked about a couple of different things. One of them makes some sense to me. One of them makes a little bit less sense to me. Let's start with the one that I do think has a little bit of water. And I didn't even know this is true when I heard him say it. So we'll see whether or not he's able to pull this off. But he talked about wanting to become the first player to win a Super Bowl with 3 different teams. That'd be pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. That would be pretty cool to be, and not just kind of be on it because you are a backup and you just got really lucky with the timing of it all, but an important part of 3 different teams. Obviously, an important part of what he did when he was an MVP with Denver. Obviously, an important part of what he did last year with the Rams, kind of bookending with Aaron Donald and allowing them to do what they do to win the Super Bowl. But in Buffalo, he's going to play an important part there too. So if they can actually get that done, I think that's pretty interesting for him. So I'll give him that one. This part, though, is a little bit harder to wrap your head around. And what he said was, this is why I came here. I could have just stayed in LA and rode off into the sunset and rushed with Aaron Donald and piled up sacks, but I wasn't content. I wasn't content where I was at. I still wanted more. Okay, I believe that he would like more, the 3 Super Bowls on 3 different teams. I believe that is an intriguing thing. But let's not pretend that $120 million coming his way in Buffalo wasn't the number one thing, because let's just kind of break down what he said here a second ago. I wasn't content just standing next to Aaron Donald and racking up sacks. Why not? This is not the Jacksonville Jaguars where you're going to just go and get a bunch of empty numbers. This is not a team like you were at in Buffalo for the last couple of years that wasn't good enough to win the Super Bowl. This is the defending Super Bowl champion. You're playing with arguably the greatest defensive player of all time. This is not running out the clock in your sunset years where you're collecting some money and playing in meaningless games. This is a team with championship aspirations. Come on, man. The sunset is nice here. I agree. It's very pretty. You get to see the water. You get to see the sun go down into the ocean. It's wonderful. I love it. The Buffalo sunset may not be quite as picturesque along the way. And this is not to throw shade at the Buffalo football team. They're a good team. I expect them to be in the mix. The Rams and obviously Buffalo are going to play week 1, opening night, Thursday night football to kick off the 2022 season. But this idea that this is some sort of retire. Look, and this was wrong too, but it made more sense at the time. Remember when LeBron left Cleveland and came to the Lakers as a free agent. And people kind of rolled their eyes like, oh, okay. So he's coming here to make movies, to make TV shows, to get to know people in the entertainment industry. And this is a retirement job because he likes living in LA. He wants to raise his family in LA. And this gives him access to people that he would not have access to, or at least as readily accessible as he would in Akron or Cleveland. Okay. The team wasn't very good. Okay. I see you. I didn't buy it. LeBron's too competitive, et cetera, but it made sense. This is not that. The Rams are a high achieving team. The Rams are not coming into this season saying, hey, look, we won the Super Bowl last year. Let's just, let's ride off into the sun, get AD some sacks. We'll get Matthew Stafford will throw some touchdowns, Cup will catch a couple of balls, and we'll just see what happens. No, they're going for it all over again. They have huge expectations. They want to win it again. You want to win a Super Bowl with the third team? Cool. I get it. That would be a really unique thing to have on your resume. And in Von Miller's case, a really unique thing to have on your Hall of Fame, plaque or story or paragraph or however they do the things at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The only man to win a Super Bowl with 3 separate teams. Cool. That would be really neat. But don't do I didn't want to I wasn't content playing with Aaron Donald. Stop. That's crazy. Everybody in the league would love to play with it. You'd love to play with Aaron Donald. It allowed you to go win your second Super Bowl to set yourself up to go get the third Super Bowl in a third different city. Sunset job. This is not hey, listen, they had a bunch of cap room. I'm just going to go over here with LA and kind of, I'll go take their money for a couple of years and then peace out and I'm going home. Come on, man. I love Von Miller. He's a great football player. I think he's going to help Buffalo a lot. I think Buffalo is a very, very dangerous team. They gave him a huge contract, like we mentioned, $120 million. I get all of that. No shade at all in any of that. But right off into the sunset in LA with Aaron Donald, that just doesn't add up, my man. You got to just say, hey, look, they paid me huge, and I want to win a third Super Bowl with the third team, and I think Buffalo's a really good chance to do that. I'm with that. That makes sense to me. Sunset job here in LA, not a chance. Okay, coming up next, the Rams offensive line was downgraded by PFF, Pro Football Focus, in their grade. Not as good as it was before, but a little bit of a silver lining. That's straight ahead. But first, let's talk about our friends at Blue Nile. At BlueNile.com, you can celebrate all of life's special moments, from creating the custom engagement ring of her dreams to gifting, easy for me to say, to gifting a classic and timeless jewelry piece, all at prices you will not find at a traditional jeweler. So whether you're ready to pop the question or you're celebrating a milestone, find jewelry as unique as she is with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. Build the engagement ring that she has always dreamed of, or you can just celebrate one of life's many special moments with fine jewelry. So no matter what you're looking for, Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com, and Locked On Sports listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. And the podcast exclusive includes engagement. So use that code Locked On. The code again, Locked On, plus every order is insured, it ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that will not give away the beautiful surprise inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. And we've got a very important favor to ask you. We've put together a survey so we can learn more about the listeners like you, and we make your favorite Locked On podcast even better. So it's your opportunity to tell us what you like. It's your opportunity to tell us what you don't like about Locked On Podcasts. So go to LockedOnPodcast.com/survey right now and get started. It will not take you very long. And for doing that, everyone that completes a survey will qualify for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Ticketmaster gift cards. So take the audience survey, go to LockedOnPodcast.com/survey, and thank you very much for your help. Okay, so we talk a lot, and rightfully so, about all of the big names on the Rams. Obviously, Sean McVay, maybe one of the biggest names in the NFL. Aaron Donald is a deadlock cinch Hall of Famer. Cooper Kupp is your Super Bowl MVP, and Matthew Stafford is a longtime NFL All-Pro who is, putting together a late run in his career for the Hall of Fame as well. They're loaded up with star players. Odell Beckham Jr. may or may not be back, but was with the team last year. Stars all around. And it's important. And the Rams have made no bones that they are a star-driven organization, and that's how they've built their team. The facts are this team all football teams, right? I don't care if it's Pop Warner football, high school football, college, pro, whatever. If your offensive line is bad, it really doesn't matter how good your quarterback is. If your offensive line is bad, it really doesn't matter how good your running back is. If your offensive line is bad, it doesn't really matter how good your defense is because you're not going to move the ball anyway. The offensive line is kind of the motor of the entire team. It sets it all up. And when you look at what Sean McVay is a genius on a million different levels. But one of the things, and I'm as guilty as this as of anybody, the thing that he fixed first when he got to LA, and the thing that has been the through line for this team, other than Aaron Donald, has been the offensive line play. The offensive line under Jeff Fisher was okay, maybe. What's the first thing that Sean McVay does when he comes in here? He goes and he gets Andrew Whitworth and he goes and he gets John Sullivan. Okay. Two veteran offensive linemen who kind of solidified that entire team. All of the seasons that the Rams have gone to the Super Bowl, or to the playoffs, the offensive line has been really good. The one season that they did not make the playoffs, 2019, was the one year that the Ram offensive line was not good, mediocre at best, and got a little bit better by the end of the year, but they really struggled with protection and everything else. It's not a coincidence. So when you see what they did last year, when you see that Andrew Whitworth finally decided to retire, when you see that Austin Corbett goes to Carolina, leaves the team, so the starting left tackle and the starting right guard are gone, it's not unreasonable to try to figure out, hey, who's going to take these positions and who's going to be able to fill a certain level to keep that offensive line functioning the way that it has. Andrew Whitworth, of course, is gone. Joe Noteboom, it would be stunning if he was. He's going to be the guy. I don't want to say he might be. Joe Noteboom's going to be your left tackle. Played there a lot and played very well. Right guard, probably going to be your rookie Logan Bruss. Probably. So the guys that evaluate these things, Pro Football Focus, have all these ratings and all of these other things. And it's worse than it was a year ago. You take out a guy like Andrew Whitworth, you take out a guy like Austin Corbett, you move 40% of an offensive line that won you the Super Bowl. Not a huge surprise that it's not quite what it was a year ago. The good news, it didn't fall off all that much, at least according to these guys. So the Rams went from the 7th best offensive line in football. So you're talking about, 32 teams, 7 out of 32. It's pretty darn good. You're in the top 25% to 11th out of 32. That's where they have this group coming into this season. Not in the top 10, but also you're not very far outside of it. And you're still in the top third of teams, basically, right? This is not where you went from 7th to 17th. This is not from 7th to 23rd, where all of a sudden like, because you can't win with that. Now, the grades and the way that they evaluate these things, it's scientific to a point, but when you actually have to put your hands on the guy in front of you and make sure that Matthew Stafford lives for 4 seconds before the play ends, that's different. If those guys are performing at the level that they're expected to be performing. Let's just say that they got this exactly right, that they have the 11th best offensive line in football. That's good enough. That's good enough to continue to play the way that they have. This isn't where you have to bring guys in, where you have to go max protect all the time. This is an opportunity for them to continue to play football the way that they do. And it's really good news because Andrew Whitworth, while maybe older than your average NFL player, first guy ever to start at left tackle, over 40 years old in the Super Bowl. We know all that stuff, but he was still a good player. It wasn't just his leadership. There was obviously a big part of it, but it wasn't just that, hey, I know what to do here, but I can't do it. I know what to do here and I can do it. And I can tell you what to do here. So with his absence, we've talked about it a lot on Locked On Rams, and this is why you need to subscribe to the pod. Click the subscribe button both on your podcast feed and on your Locked On Rams YouTube page. If that's what it is, 11th best in the league, you're in a pretty good spot because Aaron Donald's not going to be 11th best. He's going to be first best. Cooper Kupp isn't going to be 11th best. He's going to be first or second or third best. Matthew Stafford's not going to be 11th best. He's going to be somewhere in the top 3 or 4 best quarterbacks in the league. Sean McVay isn't going to be 11th best. You're going to have a guy that, I'll give Bill Belichick because Bill Belichick. After that, who would you take ahead of him? Nobody for my money. Mike Tomlin's great. Pete Carroll's had a wonderful career. Andy Reid is a great coach. There's other really good coaches. Would you trade any of those guys straight up for Sean McVay? I wouldn't. So everything else is still at a very high level. As long as that offensive line continues to function at a better than average rate, I think you're in a pretty good spot. So when you see drop, you're like, uh-oh. When you see that you drop from 7 to 11, it's not that big of a deal. Okay, coming up next, want to talk about Cam Akers and some of the goals that he has for this upcoming season. Pretty lofty goals for a guy that hasn't really been able to put together a full season so far. That's coming up next. But first, let's talk about Built Bar. So they showed up at the house the other day, the mud pie flavor Built Bar. We've talked about how much I like the coconut almond ones. We've talked about how my kids went crazy for the birthday puff ones or the birthday cake puffs. If you like chocolate, this is your deal because it's rich whipped cream, chocolate mousse smothered in 100% real chocolate, and it's topped with a cookies and cream crumble. That sounds terrible, right? Amazing, absolutely amazing. So you've got to try the mud pie flavor from Built Bar, and it's got all the good stuff that it's always had: 16 grams of protein, 150 calories, and just 8 grams of sugar. And look, if you're anything like me, you care about how it tastes, and it tastes great. And you don't feel like, you know what, after you eat, you feel good. You made a good choice, kind of ready to go. You're satisfied. It tastes really good. You know how to do it. Chocolate mousse, whipped cream, cookies and cream. You've heard enough. Built Bar new mud pie flavor. Go to built.com right now. Use the promo code LOCKED15 and you can get 15% off of your order. Use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. So let's go back to last season. Let's go back to the running back position last season and what the Rams were dealing with. They had very high hopes that Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson would be their 1-2 guys and carry a lot of the load and be able to give Matthew Stafford a little balance in what it is that he was doing. Cam Akers gets hurt like that. Like before really even the season had gotten a chance to get started, before even camp had gotten a chance to get started, he suffers an injury. He's down for basically the entire season, right? He tears his Achilles and he's down for what you thought was the whole year. And then about the halfway point, you're thinking, he may be back by the end. And he was, and he played reasonably well in the postseason. Darrell Henderson had the same season that he's had since coming into LA, which was moments where you're like, wow, that looks really good. And then he gets hurt and then he's gone. So they had to go and get Sony Michel and put him in with very little experience in what it is that Sean McVay was doing. Got off to a little bit of a slow build, but by the middle of the season, Sony Michel was a very important part of what the Rams were doing offensively. He is gone. Obviously, Henderson is back. Obviously, Cam Akers is back. And Cam Akers says that he's got a lot of things to do, that he was not pleased with what happened last year. Here's what he said. This offseason, I really wanted to focus on being more consistent, going out every play, every snap, and just making sure I put myself in the best position to be successful. No vacations. Only one trip home. That's probably the only time I left LA. I've been here every day working, and they can attest to it. 8 o'clock in the morning every day. That's good. He goes on to say, win first, and I do my part second, and I'll be happy. Until y'all can mention me in the top 3 running backs in the league, outside of winning, I won't be happy. Okay, so he does a good job of kind of qualifying the winning part there. And look, everybody wants to win. And I think he's on to something. I don't know if he can be a top 3 running back. It's almost hard. I mean, obviously, you got Derrick Henry and you've got Jonathan Taylor and you've got guys like that have kind of separated themselves from the pack. But, the running back position is so weird. It kind of comes and it goes, and you find guys that are super highly regarded, like an Ezekiel Elliott, who has a really big splash and then severely fades. And then you got guys that are kind of unheralded that go in and carry some water for a very long time and are very good players. And we're still trying to figure out who Henderson is, who Akers is, because neither one of them have been able to stay on the field for an extended period of time. I would love for him to be a top 3 running back by the time that it's all said and done. I would love for Darrell Henderson to fall into that same category. I don't know. I mean, somebody's got to step up and do it. In a vacuum, it feels like Akers is the better bet, and I like hearing what I'm hearing. It's a little bit of training camp talk. It's a little bit of things that you hear guys say because this is the stuff that guys say. But somebody, if the Rams, obviously Todd Gurley a few years ago not only had established himself as the guy, he was one of the best players in the league. He made a real strong case for an MVP performance and was terrific. He was the best player on that team, not named Aaron Donald. But to have somebody that you can go to have somebody on a day where Matthew Stafford maybe isn't feeling it quite the way that he might, or you're running up against a defense that's a little bit more consistent in defending the pass, to be able to go to that second layer is incredibly important. Health, though, is the thing that Cam Akers has been hurt 2 years in a row. When he plays, he's played pretty well. He's got a little bit of the fumble bug. Darrell Henderson has been really good for the Rams, but he can't stay on the field. That's the difference that we're going to see with these guys, is who can maintain their health better than anybody. And part of it is, I don't want to say part of it, maybe most of it is getting lucky, being healthy, not taking that weird fall, not getting hit in a certain way. And neither one of those guys have been able to avoid it. I don't know if either one of them need to get to a top 3 kind of status, but if either one of them can just be the guy that starts 14 games, 15 games, and be in the lineup every single week and really start to establish a rapport, whether it's in pass catching or whether it's in running the ball or pass protection or whatever it might be, somebody does need to separate from there, because as far as the offensive goes, they kind of had a rotating cast of characters back there. None of them bad, but none of them have really separated themselves from the pack. And the Cam Akers has that as one of his goals beyond just winning football games. I think is very, very good news for the Rams. Okay, that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Rams. Thanks for making us your first listen every single day. Don't forget, the first picks of the Ultimate NBA Mock Draft have been made, so you can search now for the Ultimate NBA Mock Draft and get over 50 insiders, the Odyssey Sports experts, and the draft experts of Locked On NFL Big Board. The 5-episode Ultimate NBA Mock Draft is underway. Make Ultimate NBA Mock Draft your second listen today. Until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.